MSB Select DAC costs over $100,000. On the other hand side, a decent Eversolo DAC with streamer costs $1,000. While online you will see giant killers from topping to SMSL for a few bucks and a McDonald's Happy Meal voucher. I auditioned and tested both, plus a lot DACs in between. And what I learned about diminishing returns will probably surprise you. Because the most expensive wasn't always the best, and the cheapest wasn't always the worst. By the end of this video, you will know exactly where diminishing returns hit in digital audio, and more importantly, where you should stop spending your money. Hello boys and girls, although our statistics tell us that mostly boys watch us. And welcome to another video of the Sound Lab, where I'm unintentionally butchering once more the English language, but hopefully offer you some insights in this hobby of ours. My DAC journey started where most people does, streaming from an Apple TV 4K, and this sounded fine to me. Then I bought the Eversolo A6 Master Edition. My dealer convinced me that this was the next best thing that goes out of stock even before the new stock arrives. Around $1,000, streamer plus DAC, carrying dual ESS chipsets, category range ESS chipsets, and then I became insufferable. Friends would come over and I would force them to do A/B testing. Apple TV versus the Eversolo. Listen to this, guess what's what? Once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. I was that guy. So this video is a good excuse to apologize to my friends that tolerated all of this. Then HiFi Rose caught my attention in a showroom. These gorgeous devices with full-size authoritative presence and the best touchscreens in the industry. And I thought, that's just a glorified LCD. No way this thing worth as much as an 85-inch Gallery Series OLED TV. That's 15,000% more screen real estate. But I auditioned the Rose RS150 anyway, and my jaw dropped. It wasn't about the screen anymore. These devices resonated to the performance of my McIntosh integrated CD Super Audio CD transport and DAC. That liquid, that analog quality, that detail, organicness and analog-like performance that were remarkable. And what I say always, what you hear you cannot unhear. But I wasn't just yet ready to go $5,000 and I stayed with the memory. In this hobby of ours, this recollection of that listening experience will keep on knocking to your door for days, weeks, even months. And you know what is coming next. Does this memory resonate with you? With the RS150 being a nice bucket list note, I dressed up as the cheap Roseman and decided to upgrade to the Eversolo A8 instead, for just $2,000, doubling up from the Eversolo A6 Master Edition. I was fascinated with the new AKM chipset after the resumption of the operation of the factory of AKM. So, what was the impression versus the A6? It was better. A clear win over the A6 Master Edition in all fronts, more details, better imaging, more refinement overall. The A8 is so good that the previous challenge to decide between the DA2 McIntosh DAC and the Eversolo A6 Master Edition was no longer a challenge, since the A8 is so good. But the Rose at $5,000, still better. And this is where I started to understand something very important. Different DACs with different power supplies and different analog stages sound different. As you move up to more robust implementations, different is also better. I will repeat at this point that better is defined by the Sound Lab as more convincing to what live sound sounds like. But you know what? Once you are into Rose and you are into understanding how different chassis work and why you need different power supplies, you start dismissing the logic of every all-in-one device. And implementation matters more than the chip itself. So, the time had come. Being a true McIntosh fanboy, I took my chances and auditioned the MCD12000. I already owned the MCD350 at that point and was intrigued seeing McIntosh pushing it as their flagship DAC, a tube DAC, that had a transport as complementary. It carries two ESS PRO range 8-channel DACs, one per channel, a tube output stage, an option to go solid stage for special circumstances, that gorgeous McIntosh plumeters that glow, and goes for a price tag that is enough to trigger a vertigo. I hooked it up to a Rose flagship transport and compared it with the RS150 fed into the same McIntosh electronics with Sonus Faber Amati speakers. The McIntosh DAC won. Expanded soundstage, natural vividness, that tube organicness without coloration. Everything just sounded right, or more convincing. Separates beat the all-in-one devices every day. But at 5 times the price, plus cables, plus rack space, plus complexity, if you can afford it, this was the best presentation I've ever heard until... This is where you have to ask yourself, is this a hobby or an obsession? Because the returns are definitely diminishing. So I had to dig deeper. The Rose RS150 was 5 times the price of the Eversolo A6 Master Edition. The MCD12000 with the Rose Transport plus the interconnects, 5 times more than the RS150, or 25 times the price of the Eversolo. So what happens if you go 5 times again? How diminishing returns will work this time? That is the point you realize that there are discrete DACs in the market that claim that go beyond the realism in the presentation. DCS, MSB, CH Precision are the most popular examples. So I auditioned the Lina from DCS with and without the word clock. Then the Varese, $250,000 system, as well as the MSB Select DAC, which is about $100,000. Were they different to my cheap $25,000 system? These systems are extraordinary. The closest thing to analog master tape I've ever heard. The realism, the space, the texture, but they sound nothing like a digital system, despite how different they sound. At this level, it's all up to the preference. Don't confuse different with colored. MSB and DCS don't paint their own story. They keep the original story as it is, they present it in a convincing way differently to each other, but miles away in realism to anything else. I sat there listening, trying to find words to describe what these systems are and if they're worth these price tags. And here is the truth, my truth. It is not 100 times better than the Eversolo. At this stage, it's not about a multiple anymore. At this level, this performance is what gives justice and synergy to your front end and explore its potential in reproducing convincing sound as close as possible to reality. If your speakers can't reveal it, if your room isn't treated, if your amplification isn't up to the task, then you are simply wasting your money and you're gonna still talk about snake oil on a $250,000 DAC. Okay, after auditioning a range of DACs from $1,000 to over $100,000, here is my 5 key learnings. Number 1, diminishing returns are aggressive in DACs, more than in other components. Number 2, system matching is everything. Number 3, cables matter. If you don't come to terms with this fact, you don't need to move an inch. You are in denial already. 4, implementation beats specs. Non-discrete DAC chips don't cost more than $100. You don't pay for the chip, you are paying for the implementation. 5, the target is realism. And in 2025, the digital chain can achieve that, but at a hefty cost. Alright, here is my honest recommendation for where you should spend. Under $5,000 total system value. Maximum $1,000. Fantastic value, and you can spend the rest of your money on better speakers or room treatment. On a $5,000 to $10,000 system. $1,000 to $2,000 maximum. This is the sweet spot. It is a noticeable upgrade and still a reasonable investment. $10,000 to $50,000 system. About 20% of the value of your front end. Now you have the system to appreciate it, and separates make sense at this price point. $100,000 plus system. This is discrete DAC material. At this range, you have your own preference, and this is not really the topic of this video. Do not buy a $5,000 DAC to fit $5,000 speakers. If you have these thoughts, you seriously need to ask someone to come to your home and help you rearrange your priorities. Where did diminishing returns hit for me? Honestly, around $25,000 for my digital chain. You can see my MCD12000 there. Everything beyond that was wonderful, special, sometimes even magical. But was it worth the money? Only you can answer that for your system, your budget, and your objectives. If this video helped you understand the DAC landscape, subscribe for more brutally honest audio content. No affiliate links, no sponsors, just years of experience, tons of curiosity, and a lot of expensive lessons learned. And please, tell me in your comments, what is the most expensive audio gear you have ever auditioned? Was it worth it? Thank you for watching our video, and until the next time, take care.